ladies and gentlemen. Actually, I can just say gentlemen. We have no lady viewers out there. I looked at the analytics the other
Yeah.
day. But welcome into another episode of Dynasty After Dark. I'm your host, Calvin Timms. You find me over on Twitter at TDC_Calvin and my co-host Dale at Dynasty_Dale. And we are back with another of the NFC North teams. We're going through the Green Bay Packers full 2023 off-season recap, and we thank you guys for joining us here today. These have been a lot of fun. We've kind of loosened up a little bit with the NFC teams, kind of eased up the structure a little bit. So, we kind of broke it up into two halves. AFC teams first, NFC teams second. So let us know down in the comments what you guys prefer more. If you like the more structured of the AFC, or if you like it where it's a little bit more loose and free-flowing that we have going on with the NFC. So, this is a little bit of an experiment that we're kind of trying to do because we want to do this content every single offseason. So that said, just let us know your thoughts if you can down below. While you're there, please like the video. It takes like 10 seconds and it really helps us out with the algorithm. For everybody new, thank you guys for checking us out. And for everybody coming back, we appreciate you guys. You guys are the real deal. We got some pretty loyal listeners out there, and I do really appreciate that from you guys as well. That said, Dale, how we doing today?
Hey, I'm doing pretty well. I am excited to talk about the Aaron Rodgerless Green Bay Packers
Mm.
and all of their quote unquote weapons.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, yeah. I was actually thinking about this before we started
yeah.
recording, how I wanted to open on Packers. I gotta say, this is coming from a Patriots fan, right? That I'm actually glad I'm not a Packers fan, because your guys' offseason every year, like, it just hurts. Like, I would be so mad if I was a Packers fan just
Mhm.
because it's so disappointing. And I think Brian Gutekunst is one of the worst general managers in the NFL. And yeah, this guy is just never going anywhere. There's no owner to like keep. The owners are you guys, and you have no actual power. That's just
Mhm.
it's not a pretty situation. I don't know what's going to get rid of Gutekunst, but yeah,
Yeah. Unfortunately, the past couple general managers have been pretty frugal with their money,
right. I don't
and
understand it
and
either,
and
man.
and and, and they're oddly scared of drafting first round wide receivers.
Yeah, dude,
Still,
it's got to
still,
be a mandate. When you
still.
take that job, you have to sign a
Yeah.
contract. You can't take a first round wide receiver. I think that's how it goes, right?
Agreed.
They had the chance. They could have taken JSN or any wide receiver. They literally could have, and they
Yes.
refused to. So we'll talk about the draft here in just a minute. But before that, we want to get into the biggest headlining news from this entire offseason, which was the Aaron Rodgers trade. They traded to the New York Jets, Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, if you listen to our Jets video, you kind of got some of that. But we'll talk about it from the Packers' perspective here. Now, if you're moving on from Aaron Rodgers, the return was worth it, in my opinion. They got paid pretty handsomely to move Aaron Rodgers. A 40-year-old quarterback, it was tough. His contract was overwhelming, and he had a lot of leverage
Mhm.
of, if I don't want to play, I'm just going to retire, and you're stuck with this $50 million dead cap from from me. So, he had a lot of leverage. They got a good return. They swapped picks in this year's draft, so they went from 15 to 13, moving in front of the Patriots, and it was hilarious because it cost the Jets Broderick Jones, which was, we covered
Mhm.
that already. They
Amazing.
got
Yes.
a conditional second round pick next year that is basically a first round pick. If Aaron Rodgers plays 65% of snaps, it's a first round pick, which,
Which he probably will.
yeah, I
Yep.
mean, that's week 10. Like, if you play
Yeah.
up to week 10, yeah, you lost the first. So that's not even guaranteed playoffs, which is what was crazy to me, right? And they got a second round pick this year. We'll talk about who that pick was here in just a minute. And then a 6th round pick in this year's draft as well. So, upgrading a first round pick, getting a first and a second rounder, it's pretty good. So, what are our thoughts now? Aaron Rodgers leaves Jordan Love to be the number one guy,
Yes.
and former first round pick Jordan Love. I liked Jordan Love quite a bit in that draft class. I know I was kind of one of the few that actually really liked him, but because that was the Joe Burrow draft class, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
right? So he went in the 20s. He was the number 4 guy behind Herbert and Tua. And, the Packers traded up to go get Jordan Love. And I was hoping that the Patriots were going to be able to get Jordan Love, but ultimately didn't work out. The Packers jumped up pretty high to get him. And then he went and sat behind the MVP for 2 seasons. Do we believe that Jordan Love can be the guy this year? That's the number one question that is kind of plaguing everybody. What do we think of Jordan Love? What can he become?
Right. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with him. And I mean, I'm I think it's the first time in 30 plus years that we've seen a different quarterback in Green Bay, and that can be a little worrisome, I
Right.
think. But I think we could see okay things. I think the problem is with the offense that they were running last year under Matt LaFleur. It was very run heavy,
Right.
which was very odd. Which was very odd for a Aaron Rodgers led offense. So I think his ceiling is going to be capped. And from the plays we saw, he was explosive and good and had a good connection with like Christian Watson. Um, but I think, but that's only one game and that's only one showing, and it's gonna be interesting to see what he does for the whole season.
Yeah, for sure. Now, how crazy would it be if you go from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to Hall of Fame Jordan Love? Like,
That
you'd
would
have
be
to be the most
wild.
blessed
Well,
franchise of all time, right?
in a way, but they only have two Super Bowls to show for it.
That is also true. Yep.
So
I won't give my Aaron Rodgers take on this. It, I'll save that for another time. So, with Jordan Love, obviously you have a lot of questions because what can he become? He was a first round pick. He was kind of raw back when he was coming out, and he has a very good arm. He kind of had a few question marks on whether he could process the field and read
hmm
defenses and things like that. All reports are that he really fixed a lot of his mechanics sitting behind Aaron Rodgers. He learned a lot from Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers gave him a glowing endorsement, which is a nice thing. He didn't have to say anything about Jordan Love, right? He really didn't have to say anything at all on his way out, and he still took time to praise Jordan Love. So I do think that that's a good sign. Unfortunately, like I said before, Brian Gutekunst didn't bring anybody in from free agency. They brought in like 12 guys, 9 of them are already cut. So that doesn't help. And then the guys that they still have on the team are 2 safeties and a long snapper. So I don't think you're going to be expecting much from free agency, which is pretty typical. But they try to build mostly through the draft, and whether or not they can do that, we'll touch on here in just 1 second. So yeah, any major thoughts? The guys that they lost, I guess we can touch on them really quickly.
hmm
Robert Tonyan, Alan Lazard. Tonyan goes over to the Bears. We talked about him in our Bears episode. Lazard goes
hmm
with Aaron Rodgers over to the New York Jets. Gets a pretty healthy contract for them.
Yeah.
They lost Mercedes Lewis, who I think Aaron Rodgers is still trying to convince them to bring over to the Jets.
Right.
Um, and then kicker Mason Crosby, he's finally gone. They lost Randall Cobb, but Mason Crosby, he's someone that I think is kind of past his prime. To be
He's been
fair,
past his prime about 5 years ago, but that's beside the
yeah,
point.
yeah, I would say that he
Yeah.
still has
So I
his
mean,
moments, but
you're right, but it's for the guys they lost. It's not really anybody of note, to be honest. Like they just kind of trimmed the
Aaron
fat,
Rodgers
in my
buddies.
opinion. Yeah, basically. I mean, it's not anybody meaningful, in my
Right.
opinion. That's going to be earth shattering for them, and that's going to really affect their team.
Yep, I'm with you. So yeah, this is pretty typical Packers offseason. You're not going
hmm
to expect much from free agency. If they go and get a couple guys, it's going to be day 2 of free agency. It's not going to be those premier names at the top. And that's just how they've been run for a while now. And like I said, I'm glad I'm not a Packers fan because I would be pulling my hair out, man. It'd be driving me crazy. So
Yeah.
they do like to build in the draft. And in the first
hmm
round, obviously they moved up from 15 to 13. They ended up taking Lucas Van Ness, defensive end out of Iowa. I thought this was wild. I did not like this at
Yeah.
all. I
Yep.
didn't like their draft
Agreed.
in general. I really did not like their draft, and we'll talk
Yep.
about it as a whole here in just a minute. Luke Musgrave, tight end out of Oregon State in round 2. Jaden Reed, wide receiver out of Michigan State in round 2 as well. Just 8 picks apart between those two players. Tucker Kraft, another tight end in round 3 from South Dakota State. And this is so typical Packers of just hammering one or two positions in the draft. It's like,
Yep.
wow, dude, it's just,
Yep.
I guess I give you double chance of hitting at the position, but it's like,
I
or you could
get,
just
but
miss
but
twice, right?
still, yeah,
Right.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah, they take Colby Wooden, defensive end, in round 4 out of Auburn. Sean Clifford, quarterback out of Penn State, in round 5. Dontavian Wicks, wide receiver out of
yep.
Virginia. Carl Brooks, defensive end out of Bowling Green. Hey, sure we know some people that might know him. Anders Carlson, kicker out of Auburn, in round 6. They take Carrington Valente, cornerback out of Kentucky. Lou Nichols, running back out of Central Michigan. Anthony Johnson Jr., a safety. And Grant DuBois, wide receiver out of Charlotte. These are all 7th rounders. So, yeah, nothing really of note. So, obviously,
It's very interesting, and I think it's going to be fun come the end of the year when Sean Clifford starts over Jordan Love.
no. Come on,
I mean,
Calvin. Come on,
I
let's
watch
respect Jordan
I
Love a little bit.
see, yeah, I know. I watch Sean Clifford a lot, and he's hot garbage. So,
I
I mean,
agree. Quarterbacks went crazy in this draft.
I will say that Sean Clifford did beat out Will Levis at Penn State. So just keep that in mind.
Shocker.
Keep that in mind. Is that's what forced Will Levis to transfer was Sean Clifford.
Yep. So,
Yeah.
yeah, the only notable picks here, and we'll talk about them really quickly, Luke Musgrave, Jaden Reed,
Mhm.
and Tucker Kraft. Those were
Yep.
consecutive picks for the team. 2 of them tight ends, 1 of them a receiver. The receiver, he went in front of a lot of people that, didn't. There was a lot of people, including myself, who didn't even have him on their list of top 15 guys. I was not paying attention at all to Jaden Reed. Them drafting him this highly has not changed my opinion. I don't think he's going to be very good. And when you look at a new quarterback coming in with a pretty decent receiving core, I'm not that excited about Jaden Reed personally. I don't see the path to fantasy success that a lot of people are kind of copium, I guess. They're
Mhm.
using copium to try and will him up there. Now, same with the tight ends, Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft. If you listen to our Detroit one, Dale had a very good message of beware rookie tight ends, and that is
Mm.
very apparent here. We had these guys back to back in our rookie pre-draft rankings. They're still back to back because I don't know which one I'd rather have. They're on the same
Right.
team, so I literally had no idea what to do with these guys after the draft. You can take a stab on them. I mean, obviously Luke Musgrave is the higher drafted one, so if you're gonna bet on one, I guess I'd bet on him. But I had Tucker Kraft right behind him, so is one
Well,
round enough?
and then the problem with Musgrave is that he's just been injured
Yeah,
a
exactly.
lot.
He was
And
very
yeah,
explosive, but
he's very talented. He just can't stay on the field. And
right,
then with Tucker Kraft, like he's coming from a Division One school or uh I guess a bowl subdivision school, I guess you could say, with
right. South Dakota State.
yeah. They did produce Dallas Goddard, but other than that, I don't think I can name anybody else that went to South Dakota State.
Right.
So, you know, I don't it's very interesting that they picked some of these guys over wide receivers like, for instance, like uh, Cedric Tillman, Jalen Hyatt, which I'm not big on Hyatt, but still,
Right.
Rasheed Rice could have even been picked ahead of him.
Yeah,
So,
there's a
and
lot
then
of guys that went after him.
went
So
ahead.
yeah,
Yes.
yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was pretty wild. And it was crazy to me that someone like Darnell Washington wasn't one of these 2 picks. Like, if you're gonna take 2 tight ends, like why is one of them not
Uh-huh.
the 6th offensive lineman? When
Right.
you look at this offensive line for this team, and it's not in a great position. And the fact that they went for a defense, they've gone like defensive linebacker or defensive end for the last like 4 or 5 drafts. It's
Mhm.
crazy. It,
It-
yeah, I think that the Gutekunst is just terrible. He's awful, and
Right.
this offensive line is deteriorating. Obviously, they still have David Bakhtiari. He's the kind
Mhm.
of focal piece on this, but the rest of the line is kind of really falling apart over the last couple of years. Bakhtiari can't stay healthy, and
Yep.
if this offensive line's not going to be good, it's kind of worrisome for a rookie quarterback in Jordan Love. I want to see what they can kind of do here, but it does make me a little nervous there. Now, Jordan Love, we talked about him a little bit earlier. A lot of people still remember Jordan Love from his one start during the COVID season against the Kansas City Chiefs, where he looked terrible, right? And it was
Mhm.
because he was a rookie. It was COVID year, and he found out on Thursday that he's going to be the starter on Sunday for a game against the Kansas City Chiefs, which is a tough ask for anybody,
It
on
is.
that short notice. He also didn't have Devontae Adams in that game, and people like to forget that, right? They like to ignore that fact. So you give a rookie no wide receiver one, no prep time, and when he comes out and gets blitzed literally 50% of the plays, and he doesn't look good, everyone said, "Oh, he's a bust. He's going to be terrible." But I do still believe that there's some talent there. I think if we can see Jordan Love break top 20 this year, that's going to be an amazing sign for him.
Mhm.
But yeah, I just worried about it behind this offensive line. He could be getting pressured a lot.
Yeah, and I think with him, he's at least mobile enough to do okay.
I agree. I agree.
And to get some of those added yards, and I think he'll do okay.
Yep.
And I think with the teams that they're going to play this year, like they don't have as difficult as a schedule as they have had in years past. So, like they aren't playing any world beaters per se this year. I mean, they are playing Kansas City,
They're playing some tough
ironically
ones.
enough.
I think that these
Yeah,
teams they're playing are pretty good, but
but I mean they're playing a lot of the NFC, which is a little bit softer
true.
than the AFC. Which
True.
which it is what it is. So, I think Love has a chance to be a, a middle, a middling, I guess you could say, quarterback two. I don't think he's going to go any higher than probably finish quarterback maybe 16, maybe.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I I
That'd be a
I think
good
that's
sign though. That
his.
would be a very good
Yes,
sign
it
for his
would be.
first year.
It would be. It would
That's
be.
yeah, and that's all I'm kind of
Yes.
saying. So in terms of value right now, I've seen Jordan Love kind of go at the back end of the first. A lot of people are kind of giving mid seconds for him if you're going to move him.
Yep.
I was able to trade him for like the 111 in an early second, so I was able to cash
That's
out on
yeah.
him right after
Absolutely.
the Rodgers trade pretty heavily. But
Right.
as of right now, I think it's kind of settled to an early second round pick. If I
Right.
need a quarterback, I'm willing to take that gamble for Jordan Love
Absolutely.
because there is the potential he could be a Hall of Famer, right? So,
Yeah,
um,
it's possible. Yeah.
yep. So I'm willing to take that, and that's kind of where I would value him at. If you're looking to go get him, if it's going to cost you an early second round pick, all right, fair enough. Running back wise and weapon wise, yeah, we'll break out the running backs here a little bit individually. Aaron Jones, he's still here. AJ Dillon, these are the only two guys you really want to care about for fantasy as of right now. Aaron Jones is getting older. AJ Dillon
Yep.
was looking a lot better. I don't know if he had an injury or something last year, but he was kind of rough. Everyone expected him to be very, very good at the
Yep.
beginning of the season, and he was very mediocre. And then, come week 12, 18 fantasy points, 21, 22, 13, 10. Like it was just he did nothing until the very end of the season, and then he burned a lot of people on that. Are
Yeah,
we
he did.
are we expecting him to be better this year? Are we expecting Aaron Jones to still be the number one at 28? What are we thinking?
I think anything has to be better than his 4.1 yards per attempt.
Sure.
Honestly, I mean, unfortunately, the year before it was 4.3, so that's not saying a whole lot. But
Yeah.
I think there was just a lot of injuries last year. I
Yep.
don't I think that was the biggest issue, was just injury after injury after injury on that team. With Dillon maybe having some lingering problems, and the offensive line as a whole was
Right.
pretty beat up, and that's what really hurt their whole season. So, whole as long I mean, if they stay healthy, I think both these guys can be relevant. ironically enough, Aaron Jones has been a running back one for how many years now? It's been
4.
ridiculous.
Yeah, 4
Yeah,
straight.
it's been crazy like how consistent he has been, and he's very undervalued. So,
He's been very boom or
I
bust, to be fair. But
yes. Yeah,
so on Aaron Jones specifically, I'm personally out. I don't think that he's going to have the same type of potential as AJ Dillon. If I'm buying one right now, I'm buying AJ Dillon because he's much
fair.
cheaper than Aaron Jones. And I know people are starting to get hot on Aaron Jones, but just last year, he had 72 targets in the passing game. And I just don't see that with Jordan Love this year. Maybe I could be
Right.
wrong, but if you're taking away 70, if he doesn't have 72 passing attempts, targets, I don't see him really being the same type of explosive player. I think he can still
Hmm.
be explosive, don't get me wrong, but I just don't see the same, points being scored, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Right. And I mean, if I really want to be honest, I'm kind of out on this whole offense
Yeah, it's
as a whole.
tough. It's hard to
Yeah,
tell which one's going to
it's
be the
really
guy,
tough. I
right?
mean, it's almost as bad as it's almost as talentless as the Patriots offense, and that's saying a lot, I feel.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think this one's better. It's just we don't
Yeah,
know
it's
which one it
bet
is, right?
it yeah, it's better, but like still there's not I don't feel there's a
Dude,
lot of
my
hope
Patriots suck.
for them.
Let's be real here.
I
Yeah,
know,
let's
I
be real.
know,
They're pretty bad.
I
Um,
know, I know.
but yeah, so I think Aaron Jones. People are gonna want to buy him. I think if I'm buying one, it'd be AJ Dillon. I prefer
Mm,
neither personally.
yep.
I just don't think that this offensive line is going to be able to sustain drives very well. And then you couple that with Jordan Love, and it's going to be a risk, right? So
Yep.
now, if you look at the wide receivers, you've got Romeo
Ugh.
Doubs, you've got Samori Torre, Christian Watson, you've got Jaden Reed, who they just drafted. How would you kind of rank these guys in terms of priority, who you're
Um,
trying to go
I
for?
mean, Christian Watson's being extremely overvalued,
For sure.
unfortunately. And unfortunately too, that Romeo Doubs hype season, 2.0 is happening again. So, I think, I mean, of the guys here, I would want Christian Watson, but
Really?
of the guys, I'm not counting price. I'm not counting
Oh, that's what
price.
I'm asking. So sorry
Right,
if
right,
I,
right,
yeah.
right, right, right. I mean, yeah, I know, I know. I was getting there. I was
Okay.
getting there
Okay.
eventually. But of the guys that are in the wide receiver room, talent wise, I'd want Watson, but at
Fair
the
enough.
price, I'm out. I'm out
Oh yeah.
completely,
So I just pulled him
completely.
up.
So
He's
yeah,
he's currently going as the wide receiver 25,
that's
63
gross.
overall. So in the fifth round, and that's gross.
Pass, pass.
Especially
Yeah, I
when
mean,
every report, obviously coming out of camp and everything, is that Romeo
is
Dobbs,
Dobbs? Yeah, Dobbs is the
Dubs,
guy. I mean,
Dobbs,
yeah, I mean,
Dubes, whatever it
yeah,
is.
whatever it is. So I don't really care how to say it. It's Romeo.
Romeo.
Right, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. So I think I would take a stab at him.
Yeah, he's
I
currently wide receiver 55.
right. I don't want anything to do with Jaden Reed.
Agreed.
I don't want anything to do with Samori Torre.
Yeah.
Not even Bo Melton. No, but like I don't. I'm kind of just out. I'm out.
You don't want Samori Torre at wide receiver 135 value?
I think I'd rather take a bag of peanuts
There
over.
you go. There you
So,
go. So that's what Dale's breaking down here is kind of the problem with this offense. There's a
mm,
very real possibility that Christian Watson can be the dude, but he's
yeah,
being drafted pretty highly, and there's a
yep,
very real possibility that Romeo Dobbs, Dubes, Romeo
hmm,
is the one that you want to roster here. And
yeah.
when there's
Well,
that big of a gap, 30
yes,
positions between these two guys, I think that's
that's
too
massive.
big, right? And a
Well,
lot of people are just looking at what Christian Watson did last year, all the touchdowns and everything.
hmm.
And that's with Hall of Famer Aaron Rodgers, right?
That's what
So,
I was about to say that like I mean he had Aaron Rodgers throwing him all those touchdowns with
right.
pinpoint accuracy,
Yep. And it's
on the
possible,
fly.
but it's just a
Yeah, it is
gamble.
possible, but I think it's going to take Love I mean we did see that a little bit for one game last year. Or in mop up duty when
Yeah.
when
Against
Love
the
came in
Eagles,
and
though,
played
which
the
is a good
Eagles.
sign, but
Yeah. So, but I'm guessing that that was against a lot of the Eagles' second teamers too.
Right.
So,
Yep. Yeah.
so
The game was
I
over.
think it's
Yeah.
yeah, it was over. That was a horrible game, but I think it's possible for Watson to repeat what he did, but it's gonna be really tough. Like he had
Yeah,
a
for
really
sure.
yeah, it's gonna be really tough.
So, yeah. So basically, buy a wide receiver with the Green Bay Packers at your own risk. It's just,
Yes.
yeah. Again, if I'm going to get one, it's going to be Romeo. I think that he's got the equal percent odds of finishing as the wide receiver one for this team. And when it's 30 positions later than Christian Watson, that's just too much for me to pass up, right? And
Hmm.
yeah, Christian Watson, I'm out. If you can get a first round pick for Christian Watson, I'd rather have any of the wide receivers. I'd even rather have Zay Flowers than Christian Watson right now, personally. So if you can get any first round pick for this year, if it's a next year's first, I'd probably just roll with Christian Watson at this point in
Hmm.
time, just because if he is the guy, I think his price is going to go up, and if he's not the guy, there's still going to be the hype of, well, it just it's going to take a little bit of time, you know what I mean? So you can probably sell. I don't think he's going to see a massive decrease in value versus what the increase could potentially be. So if it's a future first, I'm holding Watson. If it's a current first, give me any of the wide receivers from this year's
Yeah.
draft class over Watson.
Agreed. Agreed.
All right. We talked about the tight ends. There's really nobody else. Luke Musgrave, Tucker Kraft, Joshua DeGuara. Nobody really of fantasy value.
Hmm.
Maybe one of these guys kind of makes a name for themselves in the passing game, but we don't know what Jordan Love's going to prefer in this offense. We don't even know how this offense is going to look. So it's all projection and it's
It
very
is.
risky. So
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah.
Any thoughts?
Yeah. It's very scary to be heavily in on one of these guys.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you know if you're able to get out with a decent price, like if you're able to if you're able to trade Jordan Love for what Calvin got, and you know I mean I was a person that traded for Love last year when Aaron Rodgers was still on the team. Like I think I traded it was a 24 second
Right.
or it's for Jordan. I mean I feel that was worth it at that time
Yeah,
and
it's just
still
it's
is.
a risk, right? It's a lottery
Yeah,
ticket
yeah,
still, but
yeah. Honestly, so like, I mean, it would either be that or somebody I could take towards the end of the second round next year. So
right.
you know, I think I'd rather have Love at that point. So you know, just be aware of who you're getting
Yeah,
and
just
don't really
do
put
it
all your
smart,
eggs
right?
in one basket. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. So that is all the players. Is there anybody else that I missed that you want to talk about?
Mm-mm. Absolutely not.
All right. So that said, thank you guys for joining us. Again, if you can, please just like, comment, subscribe to the video. It all just helps us out, and we're trying to get more of these videos out there to as many people as possible. So we appreciate you guys checking us out. If you've made it this far, we appreciate you there. We just really appreciate you guys. That's what we're kind of we're we like that you guys listen to us and
Yep.
just listen to our dumb thoughts that make some
Absolutely.
our dumb thoughts that make a lot.
Yeah.
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 But that said, thank you guys for joining us. Until next time,